Hi there. This is Monday Moment with Quinn. I'm with Dion. Hi, Dion. How's it going?
Hey, Quynh. I am great. I'm loving the weather. It's been very kind to us these last couple of days.
My allergies are just off the chart.
Yeah, you and me too, actually. I would agree with that too, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems like it keeps getting worse every year, right?
Yeah, it's been actually recorded that that is the case.
Yeah. So I'm going to
Yeah.
apologize in advance. They're doing testing, monthly testing for my fire alarm in my condo.
Oh no.
So yeah, it might go off. So I'm going to apologize if it just goes off.
Okay.
So today I wanted to talk about. I'm getting a lot of these questions. Is that you know client owns a property, not mortgage free yet, but wants to
Yeah.
invest.
Yes.
So I think my first question is, at what percentage can I start thinking about investment?
Yeah, so I can tell you that a lot of people come to us thinking that because they have a mortgage on the house they live in, that they simply won't be able to qualify for a mortgage on a rental property. And they're often surprised when we tell them that they can go off and buy not just one, but maybe two or three rental properties. In terms of answering your question there, what kind of an equity position does a person need to have? They need to have at least 20% equity in their home, and preferably probably closer to, well, let me put it this way, 20% equity plus about an additional 100 to 150,000. Okay. And I'll put that in dollars figures. Let's say you live in a condominium, it's valued at say 500,000. Okay. Now 20% of that would be 400,000. So if you have a mortgage of 400,000, that's great. It's a lot lower than the actual value. But the thing is, we can't access anything more than the 400. So that is because the 400 represents 80% of the value of the property. And if we were to try to access anything more than that, we wouldn't be able to do it with conventional lenders like major banks. So I'll give you the same scenario, but let's say scenario two, this client has a property worth 500,000 with a mortgage of only 200,000. Okay. So again, we could access 80% of the 500 value, which is 400. The client has a mortgage of only 200. So we can actually go and access an extra 200 above and beyond their existing 200. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Now, in terms of so what would they need to do to get started on that?
Yeah, so that process is called refinancing, whereby we're accessing the equity in the property. And to do that, you can engage a mortgage brokerage or agent like myself, or talk with your existing bank. You might want to do that as a line of credit for that additional 200, or you might want to fully restructure your existing mortgage. And in many cases, we do that for our clients because some clients might have got a mortgage, say, on a 25-year amortization, and now they're down to a 20 or a 15. And that's fine if you're just looking at paying down your mortgage quickly. But when we go to borrow more money to buy more property, we actually want your mortgage payment on the house that you live in to be as low as possible. Because if you're paying, say, 3,000 a month, but by restructuring to a longer amortization, we could drop your monthly from 3,000 to 2,000. What that does is it creates capacity for us to go borrow more money to go and buy more property. So I would say it's not a simple answer. It'll depend on the client's circumstance, but in many cases it's restructuring to a better, a longer amortization and a lower mortgage payment.
So when somebody goes to refinance, is there any fees involved with the refinancing process?
Yeah, there could be. It'll depend on how close they are to their maturity. If you're in the middle of say a 5-year term, then yes, there's going to be a penalty. That penalty is dependent on the lender and their policies, but it could be 3 months interest. It could be a different convoluted interest rate differential calculation, which I think we covered in a
Yeah.
previous video. But yeah, there might be some costs involved. And what's important is that when you look at those costs, you look at them in relation to the benefit, as with anything, right? If there's a benefit, if the benefit outweighs the cost, then it makes sense. And in most cases, Quinn, and you know this, having been in real estate for a long time, even if that penalty was $5,000, oftentimes the acquisition of that one extra piece of real estate in 1 year, in recent years, has made that same client maybe a $30,000 uplift in value. And so while there's a penalty and some pain involved in the short term, the benefit is significant. And it's really, it's only people who have, I guess, a long-term vision and a goal and can see the future, or can see some kind of image of the future in a positive way, that would be game enough to break a mortgage and pay a penalty. And with most of the investors that I work with, they are future thinkers. They're building for their family, for their children, and so they'll do the painful things now that they need to do in order to create that future that they want for tomorrow.
Absolutely, especially if you're looking at a 5-10 year plan, right? And even if
Exactly.
you're looking at something for your nest egg for retirement, it's real estate is always like, well, as recent shown, it's a good investment, right? I mean, in terms of especially in a market like Toronto, where we're seeing still growth in a time like this, especially.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many sort of 50-year-olds or people in their 50s come to me. They've been around long enough to know that they've invested, but the money that they've invested in, the assets that they've invested in, usually in mutual funds and other things like that, are not going to get them the amount of money they need in order to comfortably retire. And so with some tweaks of sometimes restructuring of finances, and then setting them up so they could buy multiple properties, many of these people, we can put on a path to $1 or $2 million extra net worth by the time that they retire. And it's just really understanding that your ability to borrow for the right type of asset, and that asset, by the way, it's an income producing growth asset. If you're borrowing money to buy an income producing growth asset, then in most cases, in the case of real estate, our clients and many of our clients are on track to add hundreds of thousands and in many cases millions of dollars to their net worth by the time they retire.
Absolutely, it certainly gives you a little bit of breathing room in your golden years to be able to travel and do all those things that you can, knowing that you have a little bit of passive income coming in and that covers your lifestyle. Yeah.
You got it.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
mean, my in-laws live that life. They in regular years, non-COVID years, they're rarely in Canada, especially in wintertime. They're out of here. They're traveling 2 or 3 times a year, and that's the life that we hope that we can all live in retirement.
Oh, absolutely. It took my parents a long time to finally realize that the passive income that you can get from real estate is something that they can live off, right? But now that they're retired, they're living a good life. It's always nice to get that set up for everyone, right?
You bet.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So thanks again for taking the time to talk with me. I have a few more questions for next week, so
Okay.
we'll go deeper into that. And in the meantime, for any mortgage questions, feel free to reach out to Dion, and I'm always here for your real estate needs. Thanks, Dion. Have
Okay.
a good day.